sea, caught in a landslide, no escape from reality.
Okay, I think we're still going to have people trickling in. Good evening, and thank you for coming to Freeport High School's College Admissions Information Panel. I'm Liz Pierce, one of the school counselors. We have two of our other counselors with us, Alexis Rogg and Dana Clark, who just ran up there. And joining me as well is our principal, Jen Galko, in the front row. So first, I want to say thank you to our 5 panelists who've taken their time to come tonight. We're really privileged to have all of these awesome Maine schools with us. I will quickly introduce everybody before we get started. So starting at your left, or my far right, is Jack Baer. He's an admissions counselor from Bates College. Then we have Catherine Stegman, who's an Associate Dean of Admissions from Bowdoin College. John Hayes, Assistant Director of Admission from the University of Maine at Farmington. Chris Richards, Director of Recruitment from the University of Maine at Orono. And Clara Cox, Admissions Counselor from the University of New England. Our goal for this evening is to take some of the mystery and stress out of the college application process. The landscape has changed over the years, and so we're hoping this evening that we will help you get a little bit more of an understanding of what's expected and how the process works from behind the scenes at the colleges. This panel will be interactive. You can ask questions, and hopefully we'll get your answers during the program. So, to get started, we'll just kind of start with the first very general question. What are the main factors your college considers in making admissions decisions? You can go. I don't know. Let's see.
Is it on?
Is the mic on?
Yeah. Oh, it is. Oh, okay. So I guess we'll start with, we'll go in alphabetical order. So, there are a number of factors that we really look for when kind of assessing a student's candidacy for the college. So, we like to say there are a number of institutions here tonight. At Bates, we take a holistic approach to application review. So we really look at all pieces of your application to really create an image of you as, yes, an academic, someone who will be in the classroom, but also as a community member, and then kind of judge your candidacy and your application based upon kind of that image that we have. So there are really a number of factors that will kind of play into the image that we create. So certainly your transcript is incredibly important. We first and foremost want to make sure that you're going to be able to contribute meaningfully to the classroom at Bates. So we're looking at your transcripts. We're looking at the number of solids that you take. And when we say solids, we mean the number of years that you have in English and history and science and math and a foreign language. Looking at that GPA, looking at testing, if you decide to submit it, it's another factor. We're a test optional institution at Bates. And then, of course, looking at you as a community member. So we'll look at your extracurricular involvement, your involvement with organizations and clubs, certainly looking for leadership and kind of meaningful contribution in that kind of sphere as well. So there's a lot of factors that really play into an admission decision at Bates.
Ditto. So we are also a holistic review school. So we look at everything that gets submitted to us. And the important thing is that's kind of what makes holistic review schools really impossible to predict whether or not you're going to be admitted. Which means that it's really frustrating for you to know, to sort of try to figure out, well, why did they get admitted? This other person didn't get admitted. Because we're looking at more than just, quote unquote, just a GPA or just the number of APs that you're taking, but really your intellectualism, your presence in your school or community, and sort of weighing all of those things against one another. So it's a very non-linear type of evaluation that makes our decision.
You're going to get a lot of dittos tonight, I think, on that. I would say at Farmington, the fit is very important to us. Sometimes that comes into play a great deal, especially if someone's on the edge of our academic standards. And then, to be honest, we spend a lot of time looking at students' high school transcript. Obviously all the holistic pieces, but we use that as a gauge to see can we admit them and can they succeed? Because we certainly try our best not to just admit people for the fun of it. We want to make sure they can also do the work and make sure their investment is well spent.
So a lot of what's been said absolutely applies at the University of Maine. I would say, with all that being said, nothing is more important than your academic record. So certainly extracurricular involvement, important. We look at that, your essay important, your letter of recommendations, absolutely. But if you're failing every class, and even if you're Mother Teresa, you're probably not going to get in. One thing, we are an SAT required school, or we're a test required school. So you have to sit for at least one exam and send us one set of scores to even be considered. So it is a big factor for our admissions process, and the scores vary significantly depending on specific program. So that's one item that may be a little unique for us for comparing us to other schools.
UNE is also, we do require test scores. We look at the application holistically, and we try to figure out who the student is through the information that they've provided, whether it's counselor recommendations, activities that they've listed. Everything along those lines will show us if they can fit into the community, be a good fit in our community, as well as their academics.
Great, thank you. So I'm wondering if people have questions at this point. We do have, maybe Dana Clark could take questions if people have them. We will have a question and answer session at the end, but just as I was sitting here thinking about questions that I might have as they were talking, I just want to make sure that you all know that your questions will be answered towards the end. So I am wondering, with that said, you have touched upon the transcript, the importance of academics. In some cases, you mentioned that certain academic classes might be more important than others, sometimes SAT versus being test optional. But I'm wondering if you all just can briefly speak to exactly which factors at your particular schools are the most important factors, and in the case of the transcript, which classes you really consider above other classes, if that's the case.
Switch it up.
Yeah.
Take it, Uni. Living it up.
For UNE, I'd say it's pretty dependent on the major. For instance, a nursing student we have set requirements for, whereas a business student or an education student doesn't have those set requirements. We don't have a minimum or maximum requirement for the SAT or GPA for business and education, but we do for nursing. What's more important is kind of hard to say. We do require the SAT or ACT, but we look very heavily at the transcript. We look at whether or not they've attended class, if how they're doing, if there's an upward trend, and we look to see that they're not just filling their classes with fluff, like taking a lot of electives per se, as opposed to the hard classes. And ones that are also relevant to their major. So if they're interested in medical biology, they're taking all these sciences and they're setting themselves up for success with their study habits as well.
So I can say at UMaine, nothing is more important than your academic record over 4 years. Okay, so your transcript is the most important thing. And yes, a GPA is a part of that, but we're also looking at trends. What's the overall story of a student's transcript, okay? In general, for us, to get into the school in some form, you're going to need 4 years of English, you're going to need math to at least the Algebra 2 level, you're going to need 2 years of a lab science, a mix of your humanities, your social studies, and that type of thing. That's just bare level get into the school. Anyone here may be interested in engineering, you have to take physics. Have to take physics. You also have to get to at least the pre-calc level in math. Anyone who's interested in business, you also need to take a senior math, and we want to see pre-calc instead of statistics. We get that question a lot, okay? Nurses right now do not have to take a third lab science, but that could change this summer. So I would encourage you, if you want nursing, keep challenging yourself and going, and taking on more science, because it's very important. We do look at rigor, AP honors versus college prep. We do like to see that. We encourage students, though, challenge yourself within your ability. Take on a load, challenge, but don't set yourself up for failure. And really take your SATs twice. Very important. We will super score. They are 50% of the equation when it comes to merit scholarships at UMaine, so they are very important. You're going to have a minimum to get in of a 1020, probably. If you're looking at something like nursing, you need a minimum of an 1120. If you want engineering, you're going to need a minimum of an 1170 to get in to those specific programs.
Again, just to piggyback a lot of the same things, one thing that sets us in a different light is we do a recalculated GPA. My Freeport friends will remember me with calculating on the spreadsheets. So we really, what you have is a high school GPA, and what at Farmington we may change it around a little bit, is we're really only using the core academic classes and a few others depending on the rigor to determine a GPA. It's the same for every student, every school that comes in. There's a lot of different GPAs that we come across. We have proficiency-based, we have all kinds of things from other states. So we try to get everybody looking somewhat similar based on the academic classes, because again, we're trying to make sure a student can succeed. Doesn't mean we don't value if you've taken art classes or music, gym classes, any of those things. We know that you've taken them, we value it, but we do remove those from our calculation, and we focus on the core classes, typically at the CP level, the college prep level, or higher. So sometimes it changes a little bit, but typically at this school, it's within what you see on your regular transcript.
So we're different in that we don't recalculate a GPA. We take whatever your high school gives us. If your high school doesn't give us a GPA, we don't have one. So we don't try to make one up. If it's like a narrative-based, transcript and so forth. So we don't have an average GPA that we publish. We're the first test optional school in the country, so we don't even require test scores. So people are like, well, how do you make your decisions? How do you know? And it is that transcript evaluation. We want to see that students are fully enrolled in all 5 core academic areas for all 4 years. Sometimes that's, a foreign language is your 5th core area. Sometimes it's economics or AP art history or something like that. So we can be pretty flexible in what we're looking at. But for Bowdoin, the most important thing is that you've challenged yourself with appropriate rigor. And I think a lot of students have interpreted that to mean I have to take every AP class that my high school offers. And for Bowdoin, what that means is you have to take challenging curriculum. Bowdoin is not easy. You have to go to class. The average class size is 16, which means you can't hide if you haven't done your work. So we want to make sure that you're academically prepared for that kind of environment, which means that you've taken on a challenging course load in high school. But that also means that you sleep and do things that bring you joy. So while we're looking at the rigor of your transcript, it's also important that you're living a life that is not anxiety-ridden and totally off the rails. Like we want you to take on challenge, right? It's important. But we also need you to come to us not totally broken from your high school experience. So it's important to find balance, and I think working with your guidance counselor and your teachers is really the only way you can determine what the right balance is for you. And then if you're a right fit for Bowdoin, we'll admit you. But there's no magic formula here. It really is a true evaluation of your capability, your potential, and your potential fit in our community.
To echo kind of what Kat said at Bowdoin, we're really looking for balance. So yes, we want to see those measurables, which I won't say for the 3rd time tonight because I know you've heard them. But that's what we're looking for. We're looking for those solids. We are looking for those for you to take rigor and take those challenging courses. But we also want to see that you're engaging the community and you're having leadership roles. Many times we'll get applicants who are stellar in the classroom. They're doing really great work. They have stellar testing. And then we look at because on the common application we see your extracurriculars and the clubs and organizations you've done or the jobs you've had. And there's nothing there, or it's very light. And so then it gets to that point, what's their impact going to be? They'll be great in the classroom, but who are they going to be on campus? Bates is a small institution. We enroll 500 students on campus. So every student is going to have an impact, and every student, regardless of their voice, it's going to be heard. And we want that voice to be heard. So it's really about balance and wanting our students to kind of be well-rounded in the classroom as well as outside of the classroom. To touch upon how testing plays into the equation at a test optional institution. Some students or people out there think they're test optional. It must help my case if I submit testing, right? Because I can just withhold it. It's absolutely not the case. We are looking for we have a threshold of what we're looking for when when applicants submit testing to us that will make them competitive in our pool. So if you have maybe testing that won't support your application, it's not going to say a lot it's not going to help you that you just submitted it. So definitely be careful, because testing, if you do submit it, it will play a role in your admission decision. So that's kind of my note about testing. Also, within that admission process, demonstrated interest for Bates is incredibly important. And when we say demonstrated interest, we're talking about any kind of touch point or communication you can have with us. So certainly that's coming to campus, coming for a campus tour, coming for an interview. Interviews are completely optional at Bates, but they are recommended. So any type of contact you can have with us is really, really important, and it's absolutely something that we look at because we want students who want to come to Bates. We want to, when we're thinking about fit and admitting the right students, we want students who want us because those are going to be the most enthusiastic members of our community.
Great, thank you. So I talked earlier a little bit just in my opening about the changing landscape of college admissions, and one of the big things that seems to have come up in the last few years in particular is early decision, early action, and priority acceptance. So I'm wondering if you can all speak to how each of those factor into your schools.
Should we start back here? Middle? Anyone in the middle? Let's start. So at Bates, we do have multiple rounds of deadlines for admission. We have 2 rounds of early decision and 1 round of regular decision. So when we talk about early decision, we're talking about a binding deadline under which, if you apply early decision and if you're admitted, that means you are committing yourself to Bates and you are agreeing to matriculate and withdraw your applications from other institutions. So it's completely binding, but that's really exciting because that means you've gotten the college kind of search application process out of the way, sometimes in late December, sometimes mid-February, much earlier than some of your other friends, which can be exciting. And then if you don't want to go early decision to Bates, that's completely fine. We have a regular decision deadline for those students who want to apply to multiple institutions, see where they're admitted, and then make an informed decision based upon that. I will be completely transparent and let you know that at Bates, we enroll about half of our first year class, around 250 of our first year students, through early decision. So, and we commit ourselves to that. It's expected every year that we will do that. And to be quite honest, the number of students who are applying early decision is much lower than the number of students who are applying regular decision. So if you're incredibly interested in a school that, at least Bates, who has early decision, you can be rest assured the applicant pool for those rounds is probably much smaller, and we're committing ourselves to filling a relatively large percentage of our class through those pools. So it certainly does impact our admit rate and things like that. So,
Full disclosure, I got admitted to Bates for early decision 1. That's where I went. Love this guy. I think there has been a lot of anxiety out there, even since a long time ago. I applied to college where the feeling is like I have to find a school to apply early decision to, right? When schools are responding to the strength of their early decision pools with 40 to 50% of their class coming in early, like that just adds to the anxiety out there. I will say that for Bowdoin, applying early is, like I said earlier, there's no golden ticket, there's no magic way in. It's still incredibly competitive in early, almost as competitive as it is in regular. So we had a 10% admit rate overall. So there's just even saying, raising your hand and saying, I'm ready to get a polar bear tattoo. Bowdoin is my number one choice. We love that, obviously, but we can't respond to every student in early that is both compelling and capable of the work at Bowdoin. We just can't do it. Or we could, but we'd fill 2 classes worth, right, of students. So we have to defer some students. We can't admit everybody who's capable and compelling. The other point I want to make about early decision is students and families really should take a look financially at each school. Every one of us at this table has a financial aid calculator on our student aid websites. We have to, that's federal law. So if you're considering applying early decision, if you haven't done that calculator, that's your first step. Each one of us package our student aid differently than each other. It's our institutional priorities and how we allocate funds that dictates that. So a lot of families will hold off on applying early decision even though their student has a clear first choice because they need to compare financial aid packages. That's a reality. We get that. So feeling the financial pressure of having to pay and afford college can seem antithetical to applying to your number one school because that's the only way to get in. It's not the only way to get in. We get that families need to compare financial aid packages. So it's not unusual for students to say to us, Bowdoin's really my number one choice, but we're in this position where I need to see what kind of aid I get at other places. That's totally fair. We get that. So I would say if you're thinking about applying early, your first step is the financial aid calculator. If you apply early to Bowdoin and you're admitted and your financial aid package is totally not doable, we'll release you. We're not gonna force you to come to Bowdoin. But we hope to not get to that step. I think we had one student this year who walked away because of financial aid, right out of 240 some students. So it's important to do that homework ahead of time. But just know that for us, we'll do our best to make Bowdoin as affordable as possible. But you really need to do that first step and make sure that's the right step for your family.
Full disclosure, I too was accepted early decision debates, but that's another story. I just had it's rare that you get 3 in a row, I guess. At Farmington, we use what's called early action. It's not a binding decision. In fact, the big deadline was May 1st? Was it the other day? I can't remember. Kind of a whirlwind. And we had a student that we accepted early action in, I think it was in December, and they waited this whole time to see the lay of the land, and then decided, Farmington's the one I want to go to. So for us, there's really no advantage financially. It's decision-wise, it's the same. It's just an early ticket to the party. If you want to join us, come on down. It kind of gets things rolling, and maybe it'll help students get excited about getting applications together for other colleges. Just an opportunity to get started earlier. If you think it's the place, come on down. If not, wait, and if you're ready to decide, you can do it. But it's not binding, and we do try and offer it to the top 30%-ish of students at the school. And if you're not in that early action criteria, it doesn't mean you don't get accepted. The secret is you just find out a week after everybody else. It's not a huge thing. It's just a way to get things rolling a little bit sooner.
So we do early action as well, very similar to what was just said. Ours is December 1st. Again, only benefits to the applicant, waive your application fee, that type of thing. One area where it can be important, if you are seeking admission for a more competitive program such as engineering or nursing, you really should apply early action because those are programs that we shut down during the year more often than not because we have reached the capacity for the number of admits based on historical yield. We know basically how many students we're going to get. So we've shut down engineering and nursing programs as early as February 1st. We'll still take apps for other programs. So if you want one of those programs, don't take the chance of taking yourself out of the running by not applying to UMaine early on. One key thing we do every student who is admissible, who applies by December 1st, we guarantee in writing that you'll get a decision by the end of January. However, the in-house goal and the reality is we get them out by your holiday break. So it means a few weekends for my team, but we really try to get those turned around pretty quickly to students so you know where you stand at UMaine, what merit award you qualified for. And we will allow students to submit information after admission for potential merit upgrades. So if you apply early on and you get admitted very early in the cycle, and you know you got a $4,000 merit award, maybe you want to try the SAT again so you can get a $6,000 or $8,000 scholarship. So there are some kind of back-end potential benefits by being in the game early.
UNE also has early action and regular decision. Early action is also December 1st. And like Chris was saying, if you're a nursing student, that's the deadline for nursing students this year is December 1st, so definitely apply by then. For everyone else, early action or regular decision is fine. I think if you do early action, our office will give you a decision by the end of December. And that's what early action is for us. We find out sooner, and it's a nice perk to kind of relax over Christmas break if you get some great news. So that's UNE's policy: early action, regular decision.
Okay, thanks so much. Shifting gears a little bit to something that might be a little bit more fun for the students to hear about, but we get questions a lot about activities, how important are activities, what sorts of activities should I be doing, how many activities, community service. So I'm wondering if you can speak to the importance of activities, how you factor those into your decision-making process, and what students really should be doing.
At UNE, we look at activities as potential for what can be brought to campus. There's no requirement per se. We're a community service oriented campus, so we like to see that someone has put in volunteer hours, volunteered at the local food shelter or something along those lines. We also look for, something fun that they can bring to the table. We have the Knitwits on campus. They're a knitting club. Maybe you'd be a part of it. We have a lot of different opportunities that you can do, and I love to check out what students could bring. Yes, I also will say that students are sometimes their worst self-advocates. So I will see a lot of the times one thing written down for activities, but then I'll read the counselor recommendation or the teacher recommendation, and it's 700 different things that they do. So students definitely take a moment and write down everything that you do, because it's easy to forget and it's easy to think it's not significant, but it absolutely is. It definitely is.
So at UMaine, we definitely want to see students who are involved. We have 200 clubs and organizations on our campus, so we want you to come join those, well, maybe not all of them, but a portion of them, and be active outside the classroom. One thing for us, I would say, that we put weight on is we don't necessarily want to see a student sign up for everything under the sun. We really like to see a student who is committed to a few things for a duration of time. So if you were in the marching band and the pep band, and you are in the drama club all 4 years of high school, those are the students that we put more weight on, because it shows a commitment to something over time. That's much more impressive than the student who attends one of these sessions at the end of their junior year, and then they sign up for 17 organizations their senior year because they heard us say, you better have something on there. So that's really where we are. We like to see a commitment to things over time, and if at all possible, leadership roles within that. Yeah?
And can you guys just also speak to them working as opposed
Yes.
to doing?
Yes, absolutely. So a part-time job or that type of thing is absolutely an excellent thing to list, for sure, because you're balancing academic work and labor, so to speak. So, but make sure to really sit down and think about the things you do in your community. So often people think, well, I don't play a sport, I have nothing to put down. Well, that's not true at all. Maybe you volunteer at your church, maybe you have a job, maybe you, maybe you put the flag up every morning at school. I don't know, but you're probably doing something. So make sure you put it on your application.
For us, I think obviously it's very important for determining fit. What kind of activities you enjoy, and what kind of things that we offer. So It gives you a support system when you're in school, so that's part of our fit look. And also, to be honest, if you're a what I might call a late bloomer student, trying to work through some things, these activities can make a difference. To be honest, if you're a great student, at least for us, you'd probably stand a pretty good chance to get through even with limited activities. But as you do some self-evaluation, with your academics, you say, I need to think about it. I need to have a strategy. What can I do to sell myself to this particular college? So, activities are always important for these guys because it's so competitive. But for us, if you're strong, you're going to do pretty well. If you're a late bloomer, you want to form your strategy and really think about some of the activities. And yes, work, that's one of the things I always say, drives me crazy. I don't see anything on the Common App about work. And then I get a wonderful recommendation letter that says, Susie works 40 hours a week at Walmart to help support her family. Hello? That's like the real world, people. I mean, that puts you from here to here, at least in my mind. So please, if you work, don't sell that short.
And I would add family responsibilities onto work. So if you care for a younger sibling or a grandparent or farm animals, those are all things we take into consideration. So, it's not just something that you put down, but it's how you're spending your time, when you're not in school. And that's important to us. I'm going to sound like a broken record. There is no magic formula for the extracurricular list. I think a lot of people think you have to be well-rounded and good at everything, and president of the school, and head of the drama club, and hike Denali, and cure cancer, and all the things. We're looking for a really well-rounded class, not necessarily well-rounded people. So we have folks who come in who, they list 4 things on their Common App. Bassoon, 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 bassoon. Right? They have a passion, that's what they do, they're really good at it or find a lot of joy in it. And that's great. We admitted that student, right? So there's not this magic makeup of what you have to be doing in high school. We do want you to be involved. We do want you to have some responsibility, whether it's a job or you're leading an activity or, again, you're feeding the chickens every morning because your family homesteads. That's important to us. So I wouldn't go into this process discounting any of those other things that your student does because it all matters.
It does all matter. And just to I could say exactly what she said, and that's what I believe. She said it well, so I won't repeat what she said. But I will say that other things do come into play when we think about extracurriculars. We're looking for you to be involved, but we know that sometimes you do have a family job or something like that. But also things like moving. Some students move, and they move across the state, they move across the country. We recognize that can completely change your world, and you can't recover and join all those clubs that you had when you're freshman and sophomore year, and then all of a sudden you're in new school and you can't do that. So we do understand that. So it's all about, yes, we want to see breadth and kind of continuity amongst all of your extracurriculars, but sometimes we do understand sometimes there's exterior kind of factors at play. Sometimes you've been really committed to a sport, but come your senior year, you're taking 4 APs. I can't do football. That's okay. There's a push and pull and there's a give, and we fully recognize that. So just kind of, it's very nuanced. That's what I mean to say.
Great, thanks so much. So another aspect of the application is the college essay. So I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about that, and then sometimes there are supplemental questions that go along depending on the school. So if you can address the essay and how important that is, and the supplemental questions, that would be great.
Sure. So the essay is perhaps the most anxiety-inducing piece of the Common Application for a lot of students. It's the one piece in your application where we actually hear your voice. Otherwise, your transcript is going to be saying a lot about you. Your letters of recommendation are going to be speaking directly about you. But the Common Application essay, or the application essay in general, regardless of what form you apply through, it's the one place where we can hear your voice. So use it as an opportunity to show that voice. Use it as an opportunity to talk about things that we might not get elsewhere in the application. We just talked about activities a lot. So if we see that you're really into the bassoon and you are in multiple ensembles and many symphonies, maybe don't write about the bassoon because we already know you do that. Or similar about sports. If we see you're a 3-sport captain, you do 3 sports, you write about your passion for sports, that's really helpful and it shows that it's legitimately meaningful to you, but we already know that you really like sports. So use it as a platform to talk about something that we might not get otherwise. And a note about, I think, you don't have to be flashy either. You can write about a really simple moment that can, if the writing's really good, it's going to really stand out for all the good reasons. To say a little bit about, grammar and punctuation, making sure it's a clean essay, that's important. So always, have a teacher, have a parent, if you're so brave, look over your common application essay, and have them give them your feedback. It should be as clean an essay as possible. With that being said, sometimes there are errors in an essay, and you might get a frantic email saying, "Oh my gosh, so sorry, I realized there was punctuation error," or something along those lines, and that's totally fine. At Bates, our office tries to have a really open dialogue with professors on campus, and we say, this essay is not great, punctuation's not where it should be, and they're pretty frank. They say, it's okay, you're going to college, you're going to continue to become a better writer. Our professors at all of our institutions are highly skilled, experts in their field. They're going to teach you how to be a good writer. They cannot teach you how to have a good idea, though. So make sure, you're really kind of being original, being thoughtful in your essay topic, and make sure it's clean as possible in order to stand out as best as possible.
Who here watches Modern Family? Yes! Oh, so many people. This is my favorite show. And my favorite episode is the one where Haley, the ditzy eldest daughter, is applying to college and gets really mad at her mother for giving her such an easy life that she has nothing to write her college essay about, right? And so Claire, the mom, tricks Haley into the car and drives her up into the middle of nowhere and drops her off without her wallet or phone and peels out and is like, "Write your essay about this, honey," right? Creates this artificial hardship for Haley to overcome. And I talk about this because I think with selective schools, people feel like they have to have overcome something in order to write a really impactful or meaningful college essay. And if you have had hardship in your life, I'm not taking that away from you, you should write about it. But if you haven't, that doesn't mean you're not going to be a compelling applicant to us. And you don't have to, parents, you do not have to create artificial hardship for your children. Had an essay now 3 years ago, and that the first line was, "My father sent me to Mongolia, so I had something to write my college essay about." And it was one of these. Oh my gosh. We're not looking for this amazing trip to Antarctica where you discovered this thing, and we're looking for who you are and what you value and what your perspective is. And that can be distilled from a simple moment, right, as Jack said. And would encourage you to think about what you value and what your perspectives are and what you can add to a small residential college and what we can do for you, because that will really help frame what we're looking for in the essay. And I will say for Bowdoin, grammar and spelling and punctuation really has to be drilled down and on point. So having that editing help, just someone to look over your essay is really important for us. We don't expect you to write like a Pulitzer Prize winning author, but we do expect that you pay attention to the writing that you do submit.
I'll keep it brief. Just play to your strengths. It's easy to tell when you're talking out of your yin-yang about something that, just play to your strengths, write it well. Doesn't have to be Shakespeare. I have, on my bulletin board, I have some of my favorite essays, and one of them was about shepherd's pie. So come on, so you just never know. But it was what was comfortable, and it was a pretty good essay, and it was well written. So just play to your strengths.
I would echo that. I think one thing I would say, and a pet peeve, please make sure you do not have another university's name in your essay, especially at UMaine if it's the the University of New Hampshire. I'm telling you right now, it will not go over well. But really, that is an immediate, well, how bad do you really want to be at UMaine if you couldn't even put us in your essay? Like, you couldn't even delete, copy and paste the new name in. And we see it more often than you think. So really think that over and take some time with it. Also, please don't write the essay. Yes, everyone knows we love hockey at UMaine. Don't write, I really love the University of Maine and I can't wait to come up and wait in hockey line every day. And I've seen those, and that's it. I'm like, well, I really don't. We got a lot of people who come to hockey games who aren't even students, so I don't know how that adds to the culture of the school. Take some time with it, take it seriously. It would be my key advice.
I'm going to piggyback. This is pretty much the same for UNE. My personal pet peeve is when you don't capitalize your I's. So make sure those are capitalized, please. But other than that, just make sure it's something that you will want to write about. Because when I read an essay, I can clearly tell when it took you 2 hours to write something that you're not even interested in. So just find something that you want to write about. It could be about a sandwich, pot pie. It could be about anything. Your cat or your dog, your family. But if you're passionate about it, I will also see that in the essay, and that means a lot to me because you took the time. We have to read so many essays, and we love to see things that students are equally interested in.
Okay, so I do want to leave time for questions, so I am just going to ask one quick question that I'd love for you to respond to. And it has to do with declaring a major. So is it helpful for students to have a focus major when they submit their application, or is it okay to be undecided?
If you don't know what you want to be, go undecided. I hate asking the question at a college fair, do you know what you're interested in? Because how are you supposed to know what you want to do for the rest of your life at that very moment? If you literally don't know, apply undecided. It's absolutely fine. Because some kids need to figure it out. And that's the beauty of liberal arts is you're going to dabble in a little bit of everything. For instance, I took a class in college about linguistics, and I fell in love. And it was absolutely amazing, and it was everything I wanted to do. And I double majored in it because I loved it. It was great. And that was just a random class that I took. So go undecided and figure it out as you go.
I would echo that absolutely with one small caveat. If you are potentially interested in nursing and you are qualified for nursing, it is a lot easier to hold the seat and then shift out of the program than to start undecided and then decide you want to go into nursing. Because it's fall transfer only, so you're doing a minimum 1 year, you're on a 5-year plan, I guarantee it, and it's not guaranteed. So if you are eligible for nursing right out of high school, please apply to that program, hold that spot, and if you decide to go another route, leave the program. That's a heartbreaking conversation I have every single year with students who do go undecided. Outside of that, even in engineering, shifting in is a lot easier. So if you are undecided, especially if you are across different areas. For instance, maybe I kind of like business, and maybe I want to be a mechanical engineer, but I really, this teacher I just had motivated me, I might want to be an educator. That's wonderful to have all those interests, but those are in very different areas, so come in generally undecided. At UMaine, if you are going between, for instance, I don't know if I want marine science, biology, or wildlife ecology, those are actually all within one area at UMaine, the College of Natural Sciences, Forestry, and Agriculture. You could actually be undecided within that area of study. So you're not as broadly undecided, or you don't know if you want mechanical, civil, or chemical engineering. You can still be in the College of Engineering, just haven't declared a specific major within that area yet. So we have a few different ways you can do that depending on exactly where you're at when you're looking to come to UMaine.
Yeah, I think if you have a focus major, just to do some research, find out what it entails. And classic moments for me at the college fair. College fairs, wow. Hey, at Farmington, I want to be an engineer. Okay, head over there, and then I hear them. I go over there because I know my role in the world. So go and check out the engineering, and then they ask, well, what are you taking for math? And a lot of times it's, or I want to be a nurse. Go down there, go there too sometimes. And it's like they don't know what it entails and how difficult certain programs are. Sometimes a school may have a higher acceptance rate, but within the high acceptance rate are some very difficult programs. So for students to really focus on majors and find out what the job is. I mean, again, I'll use engineering. I think some young males especially, they see it as something tangible. Like, this makes sense. I can get a job. You guys do the research on it and find out what it really means. I think that's helpful if they can investigate. Even for us with education, it does involve a little bit more of a structured path because it leads into some certification. So that program for us is a little bit more difficult to weave in and out. But the thing is, the more you change, sometimes the more it costs. You can change all you want, but the cost might go up. And then finally, as far as the undecided, we have a liberal arts undeclared program. And in that program, we have non-faculty advisors. They're professional staff that help advise students. They actually get really treated very well in terms of finding out what their interests are, letting them explore different majors, but at the same time staying on track, not getting lost in the scheduling and getting behind. So it can work either way, I think, as long as somebody has done their research and did some self-evaluation.
We pay zero attention to major. And the reason for that is we have 42 academic programs at Bowdoin. And even for students who say, I want to be pre-med, which is probably the most put down thing for us for the Common App, that's great. We love that you want to be pre-med. You're still not going to declare a major until the middle of your sophomore year. So at a liberal arts college, you're going to be expected to take classes across the curriculum, and those can really change your mind. To your point that you might come in and say, I want pre-med, but then all of a sudden you discover economics, which you've never had access to in high school, and that's the route you go. So I think it's great to come into a liberal arts college with some idea of what you want to study, but the most important thing is having an open mind to academic areas that you have not been able to explore before. And that might be Russian language or Mandarin or sociology. That can lead to really impressive and meaningful careers that you just, you haven't been exposed to yet. So I would say if you're looking at liberal arts colleges, what you want to major in matters less than if you're applying for a specific program at a university.
Similar to Bowdoin, we pay no attention to what you want to major in. We just care that you want to come to Bates. So when you apply to the college, you're applying to Bates, and then you'll declare your major during your sophomore year at the college. So once again, a really high emphasis placed on intellectual exploration, making sure you're kind of having a holistic undergraduate education at Bates and really dipping your toes into many different pieces of the curriculum. So it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter at all in the admission process.
Great, thank you. So now we'll open this up to questions. If anyone in the audience has questions for any of the reps, please raise your hand.
Hi, I've been recently trying to research the relative benefits of AP versus IB. I was wondering if anyone has any helpful information to make me less confused about that.
So both curriculum are standardized, curriculars are standardized, I didn't take Latin, are standardized, so we know in a certain sense somewhat what is being taught and evaluated via the exams. So AP classes obviously are college level classes. A lot of colleges and universities will give you credit for them. Same with IBs. So the International Baccalaureate Diploma Program is very rigorous. We would consider it the same as taking a full slate of AP classes. So long way of saying, we treat them equally in the process. However, if you're in the full IB program, that's like the most rigor you can take for us. But they're both great programs. And for me personally, the IB Theory of Knowledge class is, I don't know if you know anything about that, but it's a class you take both your junior and senior year, and it basically teaches you how to learn, which to me is like a great benefit to the IB program. So, but we would treat them equally in the admissions process.
On a slightly different tack, I wonder if we could talk about college cost just for a moment. Many, many moons ago, I graduated from a public college here in Maine. My mom and dad weren't able to offer any financial advice, so each year I went to my local bank and borrowed the $3,000 or $4,000 that it took. It was a challenge, but it certainly wasn't prohibitive. I wonder, when you see the numbers nowadays, they're staggering, what it costs for a year of college. But is it truly any more prohibitive than it was a generation or two ago?
That's a heck of a question. I would say that I think investment in financial aid has been a major part of institutions and their assessment. Yes, I mean, we have all gotten more expensive forever. But alongside with that, I think you could also find, if you look back historically, that the scholarship programs or the financial aid budgets have also been increased for certain goals, attract certain types of students, help students with financial need, whatever it may be. So I don't feel like college is out of reach per se. You may, just specifically, we're a state institution, and we are about $21,000 a year. That's total sticker price, living on campus, room and board, the whole deal. But we give Maine students scholarships. We give every Maine kid at least a $1,000 scholarship for simply being a resident of Maine. So if you get in, you're going to get that. But we give scholarships all the way up to full tuition and fees, and some even beyond that, just based on academic merit. So I think the message for students is the work you do in the classroom might be the single greatest asset you have in paying your college bill. You may not think that right now, and you're just trying to get through the day and get to summer vacation. It's May, it was just 80 degrees. But doing well academically can pay for your college. So take advantage of the opportunity you have now, because I can assure you, now that we're all on the back side of it, every dollar you pay up front, you will thank yourself tenfold when you graduate. Yeah.
And just, if I can add to, I think what you have, again, with your academic, that's where a lot of that's where the good stuff comes from in a lot of the institutions. And also, you got to weigh out all your options. We're in the same system. We give out some similar merit, not merit, but the FAFSA, but our academic merit programs, very different. So even within our system, we do have different financial aid packages. And in some private schools, you could strike gold. It's kind of the Wild West in a sense, but so it's good to shop around if you have the opportunity to compare cost and see what's available. Sometimes you might be surprised at what's out there. So I think it is. I've got a 13-year-old, so I'm like, I can only imagine. But it's my problem now, I guess. But I think look at all the options, because everything's a little bit different right now, and you might strike gold when you least expect it.
And I just, to quickly tag in there, at Freeport High School we do offer 2 financial aid information evenings, one in the fall and one in the spring, and so I definitely recommend going to those because they're very specifically focused on how do you pay for college, how do you compare costs, and all of that.
I had 2 quick questions around the essay. The first one is, do you get strictly narratives about an event or a personal experience, or do you get something like arguing, like if someone wanted to take a position on something or argue a point, is it strictly experience? Is that what is the requirement?
I'm Mr. Honest here, so this is what, I don't even look at the question, I just look at the essay. I assume that I should, I guess, now that I look at it. But I'm not going to speak for everybody, but I just look at the essay, and I say, all right, what is it? Is it an argument? Is it a descriptive, whatever it is? That's what I look at. That's just That's just me. I don't even know what the question is half the time. I take the essay for what it is, but I'll let everyone else speak on that because they're probably smarter than I am.
I would just second that all the way. So that's all I have to say about that. If it's a good piece of writing, it's a good piece of writing. You know, at UMaine.
Yeah, I do agree. I do agree to some extent. So really, the topic is completely up to you, right? Like I said earlier, it's one platform where you can really write about whatever you would like. It does say something when it doesn't respond to the prompt, though. So please pay attention to the prompt. You know, there is a lot of flexibility with the prompts, though. So realistically, you could write about pretty much anything. But I think if you want to take a position, that's totally great. I think you have the ability and the agency to do that if you want. I think though sometimes when it becomes a bit tricky is when it can read like an assignment you wrote for a class that you've just decided to submit for college. And like, we have those moments where like, this sounds like something they wrote for their history class 2 weeks ago. And so sometimes it's a moment of like, did they actually write this for us, or is this just a piece that... So I would say, ultimately it's up to you, but I would tread lightly and be careful, just because there's different ways that it can be perceived.
I think that's totally fair. I would just add very quickly that after 13 years of reading hundreds and hundreds of essays a year, like, we've seen it all. Like, I've seen haikus, I've seen screenplays, I've seen like soap opera style narratives. So I guess I would say with whatever format you're choosing, don't choose that just to like stand out and like be unique. Because it can really feel very forced and not genuine to who you are. I guarantee you, we read your essays, we put them up on our bulletin boards. Like, we enjoy essays that are meaningful and personal to you. And so I think there's this idea that you have to like stand out and be weird or unique in your essay. And you are all different people, and you're all going to read differently in your essay. So like, to push that envelope can be really risky.
Just one more thing, because it was kind of on here, is that avoiding something on the essay is no sour grapes. That's kind of a negative if you choose it to complain about something or make excuses. Hey, sometimes life happens, and we know you've had it hard, but don't turn it into, some kind of a performance that wasn't up to your standards, and then make excuses for, hey, it's just a fact. Mom was in a bad place with a disease. It was a tough year. I got through it, and I'm moving on. And not, well, then this, and then, there's a difference there. So just no sour grapes. Stick to the facts if there's any kind of a situation like that you feel you need to explain.
Good. Thank you. And my other question was, so I'm hearing one side that you liked an essay about shepherd's pie, and then I'm hearing another side that you want to take it seriously. So just wondering, like, what's the line that versus serious? Like, can you write about something random like shepherd's pie and then, or like serious?
So
shepherd's pie is serious.
In defense of my shepherd's pie friend, it was he was an athlete, and he was comparing the layers of preparing for basketball to the layers of the shepherd's pie. So it was a kind of a whimsical title, but within it was actually pretty serious and well thought out. So there was a little bit of validity to it. It wasn't just about, he put a little extra garlic powder in the mashed potatoes.
Are there any more questions? It is 7:05, but we could take a couple more and then head out into the lobby.
So several people have said, if you're a good fit, we like you. So we've gone to visit lots of college campuses, and my daughter feels like she fits in some. But what does that mean? You're a good fit.
That is the annoyingly vague way that we talk about. I know, it's totally unhelpful. So, fit for Bowdoin is being academically capable of the work. It means that you're compelling in who you are personally, and that can mean a lot of different things. That can mean being a Mainer, being right next door, being familiar with Bowdoin, being involved in whatever you're involved in. For us, I think we all have descriptors of students at our schools, right? So at Bowdoin, we talk about being non-competitive and being really collegial in the work, and we're all in it together. Like, there's big problems out there, and none of it's going to get solved by like trying to win climate change, right? Like, climate change is something we have to work on together. So in other words, like we're looking for evidence of collaboration or kindness in the application, like things that we would use to describe our students or our institutions is what we're then looking for in the application. So as you're traveling around to schools, I think a helpful question can be, how would you describe a student here? Or how would you describe the student experience here in 2 or 3 words? And that's really hard because we're admissions people and we like to talk, but like you'll get an idea, a gist. I would also say that if you're having a gut feeling at a school, that's a really good sign. Not just that it's pretty buildings and like a manicured quad, but that you're connecting with students in the dining hall, or you've maybe met with an admissions person or a faculty member that seems to align with, you know, what you value in the college. And so I wouldn't disregard like your own gut feeling when it comes to fit.
I think we have one more question.
Sure. Helpful hearing your peeves on the essay very much. I also really like hearing about the shepherd's pie. So if more of you could please share just what made your highlight reel your equivalent of your shepherd's pie, that would be helpful.
So, I think the one that stands out for me, outside of this, I'm actually a licensed professional registered Maine guide, so I'm avid into the outdoors, so I will be making a stop at a retailer on my way out of here that you might be familiar with. I had a student from out of state who wrote his essay about how he had selected the University of Maine. He had come through a hardship, and he basically was presented this opportunity to go on this outing trip and canoe the Allagash Wilderness Waterway. And he had talked about, you know, how the outdoors changed his life and, you know, connected with nature, and that the idea of coming to the University of Maine, he could be a part of that while he was in college, and being the outdoor enthusiast that I am. That's one of my saved ones, I would say, because it happened to connect with me personally, but the story and the way that he presented why he wanted to be at UMaine, it was so very well done, and it was greater than just academia. It was like a life-changing thing for him. So that would be one of my top ones for sure.
Mine was also food related. I love food, and I'm a foodie. I live in Portland, so it's not hard to be. But mine was, my favorite one was about a banh mi sandwich, and it was so incredibly written, and it tied in. And that's what was really important to me, is you can write about shepherd's pie or a banh mi sandwich, but what does it mean? Why are you talking about it? And it was because, like, from the crusty bread to the soft meat that was inside, everything made sense. And he related to his life, and it was incredible. And I think we are using it in one of our, like, essay topic discussions because it was so well written. And granted, maybe there were a few grammatical errors, but the way he wrote, he was in love with this sandwich, and he was in love with his life, and it was so fascinating. It was really interesting. But on the flip side, I've read essays that just are shocking and so different from my life, and that they've really resounded with me. For like an injury that I read, some girl fell and was in a coma for 3 months and lost all her speech, and blah, blah, blah. And obviously that doesn't happen to everyone, but it's something that sticks out to me.
Sure. One of my favorite essays was about a student who was from New Jersey, which I'm from New Jersey, so kudos to him and brownie points automatically. No, but he's from New Jersey, and he went out to late night diner with a bunch of his buddies, which is like the most Jersey thing to do, probably. So he went out to a diner, late night diner, and all of his friends were getting like coffee and milkshakes and soda. And he loved tea. He was a big tea connoisseur, so he ordered a pot of tea. And it was just kind of this moment of him being out with his buddies, everyone, you know, kind of being crazy teenage boys, and him like having this pot of tea being served at their dining table, and him like negotiating that moment. And it was such a simple moment, but something that said a lot about him. The fact that this person was confident enough to order tea because he wanted tea. He wanted a cup of tea late at night. It said a lot about his personality and his character.
Food, apparently.
I know.
Yeah. food. My favorite essay I read my first year in admissions work, and it was an athletics essay, and we see a lot of like, I scored the winning goal in the big game, which is great, right? Maybe not as meaningful or deep as some other topics, but totally that's your experience, good. So this one was about the big game, and it was about the guy who does the face-off at the beginning of the game, and the draw, whatever it's called. And so he had developed over the years this like superstition around doing this, and so he would like punch his stick 3 times and like twirl his stick and like walk over this line with this leg. I mean, it was like Nomar Garcia Parra intricate, if anyone remembers Nomar, at the plate. And his parents were like, "You look crazy." Right? But he's like, but it works. I win. And he had like an amazing win percentage on the lacrosse draw. And so he gets into the big game. And at this point in the essay, I'm thinking, oh, here we go. Gonna score the winning goal. And he started losing the draw. And he had this moment of, do I abandon my superstition? Or do I keep going? And am I winning these draws because of luck? Or because of skill? And it was just this very simple moment in his life that he dissected and sort of had perspective and like had insight into himself, went on to sort of readapt the superstition, right? And then like was like adapting the superstition again, like superstition. So there were layers to it, and I think more importantly, it just was something that was meaningful to him, that he connected to his life, that he drew back and sort of talked about what he valued, which was hard work, rather than luck. And so you don't have to have a topic that is crazy or presented in a different format to stand out to us.
Thank you so much. So, in the event of time, it's almost 7:15, and I know that some of you wanted to meet with the reps out in the lobby, so I do want to dismiss the reps. I might send them out the back way and then have everybody go out the other door to meet them. But if we can just please give a big round of applause and thanks to the reps. We really appreciate your time. Okay, so I'll send the reps if you want to follow.